The occult is a deep and mysterious well that entices all who stare into it. It is also the basis for the greatest fantasies, entertainment, and nightmares. The Occult Adventures was released in 2015 and have set the table for some of the best role-playing and character options you can find. While introduced amazing classes like the Kineticist, Medium, the Mesmerist, Psychic, Spiritualist, and of course the Occultist. I figured it would start off the year's spookiest month with the class in this book that has its namesake, the Occultist. I'm sure I'll get to the others in short time, as they are amazing. But today, we'll tread the bleak waters of madness and whisper into the darkness. Whether you want to live through your Lovecraftian fantasy, or be the detective that plays on the side of the tracks where no one else goes, the Occultist will provide an interesting mechanical play as well as some supreme RP options. Let's see what our base Occultist gets at level 1. Occultists have an acceptable D8 hit die and a nice arrangement of skills. Use magical device, UMD, not being the least of these. And with the fact that intelligence is your main psychic casting ability, and the fact that you get 4 skill points plus your intelligence modifier, you should have plenty of skill points to go around. Depending on how you want to build your occultist, you should try to have a 16 intelligence at least. This will allow you to progress and cast all 6 spell levels that you will get to through your progression. The rest will depend on whatever your plan is, on either requiring saves due to casting offensive spells, or if you're going to rely on your psychic abilities more for defense and utility. An occultist can use simple and martial weapons along with light medium armor as well as shields, but like most, not tower shields. An occultist is a 3/4 base attack bonus combatant, so your attack may not be the best, but you'll be pretty good. There's also a way for you to change your base attack bonus with some of your powers. Your reflex is your poor save, so we will have to watch out for those fireballs. Being a spontaneous caster, you are given a number of spell slots each day. As the table shows, that is also increased by your intelligence. You pull those from the spell list that you have, that you get as you level. But to go any further into spells, we will have to cover implements. The two kind of mix. Now, the occultist channels his psychic might through implements, an item that allow him to focus his power and produce incredible effects. For him, implements are more than simple tools. They are a repository of history, a tie to the events of the past. Though some of these implements might be magic items in their own right, most of them are merely historical or personal significance to the occultist. See, 2 implements. Then more as you progress. Each implement you get represents a school of magic. Each implement school adds 1 spell per level of that school to your spell list that you can then cast your slots from. Also, that implement is needed in order to cast those spells that they add. If you don't have the implement for one reason or the other, you can still attempt to cast the spell you would like, but you have to make a concentration check of DC 20 plus the spell level. Also, if you cast a spell and don't currently have your implement, the spell is considered to be at minimum caster level. So, first level spells are going to be cast at first level, no matter what level you are, and a 4th level or a 2nd level spell is going to be cast as if you were 4th level. Implements can be many things depending on the school, from armor and bells to bone and coins. Many of these items can be worn along with magical items or just carried on your person. Focus powers and mental focus. Whenever an occultist learns a new implement school, so 2 at first level, he gains the base power of that school. In addition, at 3rd level and every 2 levels thereafter, he also learns new focus powers selected from the options granted by all the implement schools he knows. The occultist can use focus powers only by expending mental focus. The DC for any save against a focus power is going to be 10 plus half your occultist level plus your intelligence modifier. Focus powers come from implements that we have put our mental focus into. An occultist has a number of mental focus points to their occultist level plus their intelligence modifier. These points refresh each day, kind of like most spellcasters. He can divide his mental focus between his implements in any way he desires. If an implement is lost or destroyed, the focus invested in it is lost as well, though the occultist still refreshes those points normally. The occultist can choose to save generic mental focus inside their own body instead of investing it, but expending that focus comes at a higher cost. Any focus power the occultist activates with generic focus costs twice as much mental focus to use and to maintain. Just generally, it doubles everything. The occultist can expend his generic focus through an appropriate implement on any focus power he knows, but an implement he didn't invest any focus in at the start of the day grants no resonant powers. Once mental focus is invested inside an implement, the implement gains the resonant power of its implement school, and the occultist can expend the mental focus stored in the implement to activate the associated focus power he knows. If a resonant power grants a bonus that is varied on the amount of mental focus invested on the implement, the bonus is determined when the focus is invested and is not reduced or altered by expending the mental focus invested in the item. But once all the mental focus in an implement is expended, it loses its resonant power. Using abjuration as an example, let's take a bell as our implement, and our base power is Mind Barrier. When you focus points into the bell, it gains the resonant power, Warding Talisman, giving a +1 resonance bonus to saves. An occultist can give this item to anyone who will receive the bonus, but if he does this, he can't expend any of the stored points on the focus powers, and he must make a concentration check to cast any spells associated with the item. Now, the base focus power, being Mind Barrier, says that as a swift action, we can expend 1 point of mental focus to create a shield of mental energy that surrounds us that protects us from harm. The shield prevents a total of 2 points of damage per occultist level that you possess. It lasts until the start of your next turn or until it's exhausted. For example, if you're 5th level, the Mind Barrier protects you from 10 points of damage. If you're hit by a total of 12, then you are still going to take that 2 additional points of damage. You can activate this ability as an immediate action, but doing so costs 2 points of mental focus instead of the 1 coming off the implement. Finally, let's cover the last ability at 1st level, Knack. Knacks are 0 level psychic spells that are selected each time that you select an implement school. Like other 0 level spells, they don't have a limit. You can keep casting them, so it's all good. Remember that UMD skill I told you about. So if you're worried about your spell list, then this level 2 ability is going to make you giddy. The magic item skill allows you to use half your occultist level to all your used magical device checks. This is going to increase as you level, obviously, but it means that if you are more melee focused and you don't want to pump your intelligence a whole lot, this will assist you in that. The 2nd level ability, Object Reading, is also a fun addition at this level. At 2nd level, an occultist learns to read information from items it examines. Examining an item in this way requires him to spend 1 minute handling the item. If the item is a magical item, the occultist learns its properties and command word as if he had successfully examined the item using Detect Magic and succeeded a spellcraft check. This ability does not reveal whether the item is cursed unless the occultist's class level is equal to or greater than the caster level of the item. If the item has any historical significance, the occultist learns 1 piece of information about its past. This is determined by your GM. Finally, if the item was last used no longer than 1 day per occultist level, the occultist learns 1 piece of information about the last creature to use the item. The information might be a glimpse of the creature's appearance, a brief vision of what it saw while it was being used, or perhaps the creature's or person's emotional state when it last used the item. The GM determines all this, what information you're gained, and how much you're going to need. This is something you will have to work out with your GM. It is amazing. It's great whenever we use it, but it can also be annoying if you just pick up random stuff, so be nice to your GMs. Level 4, we get Shift Focus. For the ability to shift his mental focus from one implement to another, though some of the focus is lost along the way. Shifting mental focus removes a number of points of mental focus from one implement and adds the same number, -1, to another implement. This takes 1 minute. It's quiet contemplation while touching both implements with your character. The occultist can shift his mental focus only from one implement to another implement. He can't shift generic focus into an implement. Unlike expending focus normally, this shift can reduce the effect of a resonant power in the implement from which the mental focus was taken. It does not, however, add to the resonant power of the implement which the focus is being added, so that's a big one there. Level 5, we get Aura Sight. As a standard action, an occultist can read the aura of creatures around him for a duration of 1 round, just like the spell Aura Sight. At 8th level, an occultist learns how to draw magic circles. To draw a circle, he must have chalk, salt, blood, powdered silver, or some other appropriate substance on hand. Drawing a circle takes 1 minute and requires an occultist to expend 1 point of mental focus. Once completed, the circle functions as a permanent magical circle against any alignment of the occultist's choosing. The circle can't be against a component of the occultist's alignment, though. The circle remains until its form is physically broken. Only a living creature can break a circle. Environmental effects can't break it, and occultists can have only 1 circle created in this way. If you create a second circle, the first one loses all of its magical powers. Now, at this level, this type of magical circle cannot be focused inward to bind an outsider. At 8th level, an occultist learns true name of one particular outsider. This outsider can be no more than 3 hit dice. Whenever the occultist creates a magic circle, he can expend 1 additional point of mental focus to focus the circle inward and lure that outsider to the circle, similar to lesser planar binding. The outsider is bound for up to 10 minutes. During this time, the occultist can bargain with the outsider for 1 piece of information. Bargaining requires some kind of payment in items, at least 20 gold, and it must be an item or items, something that the outsider is going to be interested in. The bargaining requires the occultist to attempt a diplomacy or intimidation check opposed to the outsider's sense motive check. Succeeding at the check by 5 or more reduces this cost to 10 gold. Failure increases the cost to 30 gold, whereas failure by 5 or more allows the outsider to escape without giving any information. The information gained can be anything that might be learned through a divination spell. The information is always correct, but is frequently cryptic. It typically takes the outsider 1d3 hours to gather the information, at which point it returns of its own accord to deliver the information as promised. The outsider always resents being used this way, even if the occultist and the outsider share an alignment component. After the occultist bargains with the outsider, the magic circle loses all power, and the outsider is sent back into its home plane. At 12th level, and every 4 levels thereafter, the occultist can learn to contact 1 additional outsider of the same type or a different type. Although he can call only 1 outsider in this way at a time, the occultist can ask such an outsider 1 additional question per calling for every 4 occultist level he possesses beyond 8, to a maximum of 4, obviously at level 20. All 4 the same bargaining price. The questions must be in some way related to one another. At 16th level, in lieu of asking questions, the occultist can demand the outsider deliver a message to any 1 friendly creature that the cultist knows personally. The cultist can also task the outsider to deliver 1 object weighing no more than 1 pound. Either of these demands require an opposed check, as described above. Delivery typically takes 1 to 4 hours, but this period is reduced to 1d6 minutes if the recipient is within a mile of the occultist. The occultist must be able to accurately describe the recipient in both name and appearance. This ability can't be used to deliver anything to a location or to enemies or creatures that are unfriendly to the occultist. So, no having the alchemist buddy make you a little bomb and then blowing up your bad guy. At 12th level, you get bargaining circles. Whereas the occultist creates magic circles, he can expend 1 additional point of mental focus to make it a binding circle. A binding circle is invisible and counts as a trap. If a living creature of the corresponding alignment steps inside it, the trap triggers and binds the creature inside the circle. While it can move freely within the circle, it can't leave the circle. Make attacks against targets outside the circle or cast spells that cross the circle's boundary. Anything inside is fair game, though. Or use any ability that would allow it to leave the circle or disturb the circle in any way. When a circle traps a creature in this way, the creature can attempt a reflex save to dive out of the circle before the magic takes hold. Again, it's going to be DC 10 plus half your occultist level plus your intelligence modifier. A creature that can see the circle gains a +4 bonus to his save, so let's remember to hide it. If it fails its save, the creature must remain in the circle, although it can attempt a will save of the same DC at the end of each hour of imprisonment in order to escape. A binding circle can be spotted with a perception check of DC 25 plus 1/2 your level. It can also be disarmed using disable device with the same DC. Anything crossing the boundary of the circle from the outside, such as a weapon, spell effect, special ability, immediately breaks the circle and frees the creature trapped inside. At level 16, you get fast circles, so you can draw a circle as a full round action with the circle's duration as 1 minute per level, unless you use the outside contact feature. Then it lasts for 10 minutes like normal. At 20th level, for a Capstone, an Occultist gets Implement Mastery and masters one of his implements. He selects one implement school. Whenever he uses a focus power from an implement of that school, the DC to resist any of the effects increases by 4, and he treats his occult level as 4 higher when determining the effects and the duration of the power. In addition, the Occultist gains 4 extra points of mental focus, but they can only be invested in implements of the mastered school. He can't save these points or expend them for any other ability focus powers other than the focus powers of those implements. Also, it increases your implement's hardness. Oh, I forgot to tell you that your implements can be broken. Tips for GMs out there. Now, if the RP ability of the base class wasn't enough and the ability to basically make a jack of all trades isn't good, you can always take a look at the archetypes. Take a look at the Necro-Occultist, where your drive and focus is on death and the undead and exploring necromancy. You get locked into necromancy school, but you get to call on the spirits of the undead to gnash and claw at your enemy. Want to be an actual arcane caster that derives his power not from ancient relics, but fashion and luxury? Nah, me either, but if you did, you could be a Silksworn. How about instead of carrying around a normal implement, you carry ones that are possessed by powerful spirits with the Haunt Collector? Having seen Occultists in action, their RP ability, like many of the Occultist adventures classes, is unparalleled. I have seen an entire table of adventures enamored just with the object reading ability and how it played into our whodunit campaign. If you're wanting to follow up on that UMD skill I told you about and not want to worry about your charisma, use these traits, Pragmatic Activator, as it lets you use your intelligence modifier for your use magic device checks instead. I love that one. Want to go all in on one of your major stats and not have to worry about your charisma again? Use the trait Student of Philosophy, and you'll be able to actually use that bluff and diplomacy checks against your outsiders because you're going to be using your intelligence modifier once again. Races like human get their extra feat, so they're pretty nice. Elves and half-elves get a favored focus class bonus. So every handful of levels, you're going to get an additional mental focus, which is super important since it's what your class revolves around. Feats are going to depend on what kind of occultist you're going to create. Are you going to be the Van Helsing Slayer and focus a lot on melee with mostly defense for your powers? Are you going to be more offensive with what you got? Are you going to raise the dead and lead an undead army? So I can't get into that without getting into a specific build, but some occultist focused feats are feats like extra mental focus, obviously, extra focus power, which gives you an additional focus power, extend resonant power, and then rapid shift focus. These feats are literally made for your class, and if you're more focused on your powers than your martial status, they may be right for you. You can find as many different builds for the occultists depending on whether they want to be their own version of Van Helsing or Constantine. This is one of those classes that can be played a million different ways, and they never disappoint. If you like this video, check out my others. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. If you have any tips or requests, drop them in the comments below. And until next time, may your crits be epic, your adventures legendary, and your gaming table filled with laughter.